It is my pleasure to speak today for our first meeting of your community with Tutusaus and Tom Weksler, who together with a few other people formed the company Wonderground. So, Rosé is a Catalonian dancer and choreographer with a BA in dance. She obtained from Artes Dance Academy in Arnhem, Holland. She also studied journalism at Universitat Autónoma de Barcelona, which she combines with her artistic creative journey in various ways, and is currently finishing her master's in ephemeral architecture and interior design. She danced with several choreographers in Holland before moving back to Barcelona, where she worked with several dance companies such as Transit Danza of Maria Rovira, Roberto Olivan, and others, before joining Guy Nader at Maria Campos Dance Company for international touring in the piece Time Takes the Time, Time Takes, and Set of Sets. She's been developing her own artistic work, alternating collaborations with other artists and her own. As a result, she created two solos, Simun and Tecnologías del Yo. She also collaborated with the circus dance artist Joan Català for Fira Tàrrega of 2016 in a piece that was awarded Best Street Piece of the Year by the critics. Since 2017, she's been collaborating with Tom Weksler in developing a movement practice that grows from and is nourished by research, pedagogy, and creations. She also has a fascinating blog, which you can find at waysofmoving.net, where she combines her love of writing, movement, and journalism in the most original of ways. Tom Weksler has been practicing martial arts and different forms of acrobatic disciplines from a young age. He graduated in 2009 from the workshop for dancers and choreographers in Haifa. Since 2010, he's been dancing with Inbal Pinto and Avshalom Pollack Dance Company, with whom he performed in many theaters and festivals around the world. He was also touring with the creation Collective Loss of Memory by Rootless Root, in a collaboration that started in 2015 and continued till 2019. Since 2017, Tom has been dancing with Guy Nader and Maria Campos Dance Company in his own creative work. Since 2012, Tom is mainly interested in artistic collaborations and multidisciplinary expressions. I first saw him in the show Lobos in 2012, a collaboration with some mutual friends of ours, Yuval Oz, Breno Caetano, and Yogi Dekel, with whom he later created the duet Pili, rehearsed in the On Studio in various residencies during 2017, and performed at the On Contemporary Circus Festival in 2018. Since 2017, he's also established an artistic collaboration with Tutusaus. The collaboration is currently in the process of completing the theater piece After the Rain and touring the street piece Rise. So,
sounds serious.
Hi guys.
To me it sounds like, oh, I'm that old. I have a very long hair.
Well, you know, from where I stand, that's okay where you are, you know. You're just in the right place. In that sense, at least. So how are you doing? What's on your mind these days?
You start.
Okay. In my mind these days, like there is a lot of things related to the masters that I'm doing. So basically presenting like a small scale maqueta. What's the name in English?
A model.
Model for an emergency hospital. So to create a bit more of an experience, of, like a healing experience for patients, intervening like stairs, like mechanic stairs, and becoming like a waterfall. This is like for now. Wow. And actually in the studio, like finding, or we are researching a little bit about some partnering that we are gonna create a musical video in like few weeks. So we are researching this
for musician
Adria Salas. It's like Salas. A musician from here, but yeah, it's a big group, like very
commission choreography for his music.
And thinking about the program that I'm gonna do for teaching in Institut del Teatre, partnering basically. So
nice. Okay, great. So now I have a lot of questions about this, but first, Tom, what's on your mind?
No, so I'm also flowing between things. I'm doing a shift because last weekend I was given a workshop, an improvisation workshop,
Yeah.
online as part of movement archery. And it was it was short workshop, which is something we don't do this often. So there was a really big crowd, and I did a very it was kind of a new experience for me to prepare for online improvisation workshops. So I did a lot of preparatory work, and now I'm doing kind of a switch because next week I'm going to the Lido in Toulouse to
Nice.
do a apprenticeship for 7 acrobats. And it's like I need to kind of do a shift of mindset and to prepare kind of the.
And that's live. That's not online, I hope.
And that's live also, yes.
Yeah.
And in the middle of this, I'm also finishing with our collaborator, Weksler and Dag, that we'll say maybe more later about her. But we're doing another online project that is called Essays on Freedom of Movement. It's kind of like, it started as an idea for a book that turned into a video that will be on demand for selling. We're just in the last moments of editing this. So I'm kind of like, I have three pedagogical pools that I'm trying to, the improvisation, the essays, Lido, and I'm in between as we're doing this commission choreography for the music video. That the topic, by the way, is a toxic relationship for the choreography, which we're not experts about toxic relationship.
No.
Yeah, well, I was just about to ask if it's something you know something about, or because it's commissioned, it's someone else's input, or because you are a couple in life, are you not?
Yeah, obviously they turned to us because of the choreography, not because they thought that we have experience on toxic relationships. So I'm also kind of like Rose moving between different things.
So, wow, so many things at the same time. And I have so many questions about everything. So I hope we will manage. I'm going to improvise with some questions that we prepared. Let's just ask about you two first. So you are a couple, you are researching and creating a sort of movement practice together, and you live together. And where do you live? Can you tell us?
In Barcelona.
So you're based in Barcelona, but
yes.
Obviously before COVID-19, you used to travel a lot. Are you still traveling now, or how's it going?
We still travel, but less, much less. We had throughout COVID, we were not only here, we traveled a little bit. We had a few works that didn't get canceled, especially the institutional things.
Oh, good.
But our work is not only institutional, so all of this part didn't happen basically since COVID.
Okay, so and so you are in a relationship. Hopefully, it's not toxic, right? So can I jump to a very personal question as well, relating to your work and your personal life? Is that okay with you?
Yes.
No, it relates to this commission that you work with. Do you feel any influence? Because since you're working on a theme that is toxic relationship, is there an influence between what you're doing there for that commission, for that project, and your life together? Does it influence?
Interesting question.
It just came up,
Yeah, no, I think it could be that when we are in the studio and how we manage with our bodies, which is always with love and respect, but because we need to do something that it's a bit toxic, we are trying to find the kind of relationship texture of the body that it's needed to express the gestuality of this toxic. But I don't feel that it really comes across to our interior space, like our house or our home.
Okay. And is it like this with all your works? For example, with creations of you yourself, for things that you yourself do, like After the Rain or Rise, in your work, is your relationship, is there a difference between your relationship in creation and your personal relationship? How does that influence that, and how does that influence that?
Well, first of all, I think that
stop me if I get too personal, but I think it's an interesting question.
It's totally fine. And also, like, a lot of places where we come to work are curious about this, because obviously it's something that, you know, art is, I mean, artists, I believe they try to express things from their lives. Mm-hmm. So of course that, like, you know, there is this question. I think in our case, what we try to do, and it's kind of, we speak about it a lot. We're not just, it's not only intuitive, but we try to bring topics for our art from our life. But then once we start to get in a certain momentum of work, we try to a little bit, you know, make sure that we have limits that are, that can sustain a healthy communication. So, so for example, we pull out things that are very intimate as far as topics to create. But then, for example, last year we were in SID, Salzburg Experimental Academy of Dance. We were there 5 weeks to make a piece. And we live there next to the school in an apartment. We go every day to the school, we teach, we create, we go back. We need to work at it's not even at home, it's at the apartment to work on the piece and then come back the next day. So it can be very intense. So we always have this kind of freedom between us, that if one of us finished the work is finished. So if at home, like, you know, I'm like, okay, that's it. You know, now I'm not anymore creative. I'm not anymore thinking. It's like, okay, you know, it's always possible. And this is, I think this is something that is very important, you know. So
yeah, to be able to.
I know that some people are working opposite. For example, the topics are external, and then it's like kind of they feel that they're embodying it. So we bring the themes from us, but our way of work is a little bit more structured in a way.
I mean, to be honest, I think that Tom is like the most challenging, respectful, and exciting collaborator that I ever had, to be honest, like in life and in profession. And I think that also there is a lot of pieces that they are being finished after dinner, sitting with like a beer or like a tea, or, you know, like there is like a flow, which was also something that we were searching when we decided to create our company, to have much more continuity with our lives and our professional life. And it's a very personal choice, you know, because it means like a lot of hours investing in like this artistic pool, passion, whatever you want to call it, and being lucky enough to find somebody that, you know, that can coexist, collaborate, or even like that feels almost something very similar.
So similar. This leads me to the next question, because obviously you are doing a lot of things. Yeah. And obviously both of you, because I know you from your work in the studio, you've been here in several residencies in our studio, which has always been a pleasure to host you. And so you are very hard workers, both of you. And I have a question about that, which I already thought about before you told us everything you're up to right now. And that is, okay, so this hard-working attitude, which is incredibly important for artists that move, of course, because you, Tom, you speak about this a little bit in your writings about movement archery, when you say movement needs to be repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated hundreds of times before you can then evolve it and evolve with it. So my question is this a genetic thing, or is this a question of education? Is this a self-created discipline, or, you know?
You wanna, I talk, you talk?
We both talk.
I mean, I'm not sure that I can, like, if I look back to my experience, you know, I started very soon to be like a rhythmic gymnast and competing from 8 to 13. So, you know, it's very hard for me to tell you if it was genetic or like, I through that, I know that I received education, but also there was something inside me that wanted to have this devotion, and like, actually that was really hard work for like such a sport, you know? So it goes so much back that I even don't have memory of like how I was before. I really have memory of like from 8 and like already being involved in something that requires a lot of discipline. And yeah, so.
Yeah. But for example, hardworking, you know, because you can have discipline, but then at a certain point you can say, that's it, you know, I'm beat for today. But then you still have things on your schedule or things on your project or that you scheduled for a specific rehearsal, and you say, so how do you mitigate? How do you balance? Which goes on to other questions about movement and work with your body as an instrument, of course. But
I think that is you know, the hard work aspect is people who choose art as a career. I would not even call it hard work. I would call it a rigor.
Rigor, yeah.
Rigor.
Good word.
You
I
have
like.
you have to have rigor. It's not like, you know, the combination of competition, people you need to convince, non-functionality, faith in yourself. There's so many elements that go against you as an artist, like on a career level, not on a spiritual level. On a spiritual level, you know, rigor is just like a way of doing. But on a practical level, rigor is like he's so essential and he's so basic. And I think, for example, something interesting with us, our style of rigor is very different. Rosé, for example, when she finds something that she believes is important, she does a very, very thorough, sensitive, and aesthetic work. I'm talking about way of thinking, way of doing, you know, not aesthetic in the sense of pretty. Like, you know, when it's important for her, she will do a very, very, it's like an amazing path of making it happen. Me, I'm always making a mess and then putting it together, and then making a mess and putting it together and but I'm doing it in a rigorous way. You know, like sometimes I hear about artists talk about mess, and like in my head, you know, it's a bit critical, but I'm like, you know, you don't know how much mess I make, you know, like how many hours I'm like spending on making a mess and putting it together. So we also using these strategies to balance. But every day, you know, we wake up in the morning and we start our rigor. You know, it looks totally different. My table, her table, my head in the studio, her head in the studio. But this thing of like, you know, having to do it over and over again, to make it also a craft, and not only is something that I don't know. I think we both just believe that you cannot live as an artist nowadays otherwise, or at least, I mean.
Okay, so I'm going to flow with you. So you spoke about getting up in the morning and things like that. Do you have a morning routine, or two different morning routines? I mean, what does a day in your life look like?
Well, in the morning, it's funny because that's the only moment that we do exactly the same. We both wake up, we read, and we meditate. Coffee, reading, meditation. Every morning, both of us.
But separate. I wake up a bit earlier, so I have time for my own. I read. Tom wakes up a bit later. He joins, he reads in the same space, but not communicating. And then like, yeah, also the meditation goes a bit like, sometimes we go together.
Yeah, very rarely often. Very rarely.
You go outside to meditate, or?
Depends. Now we move to a new place where we have a balcony, so we'll probably use it more to meditate.
Yes.
So what time do you wake up in the morning?
Me 8.
Me 9.
Okay. No, I'm just interested. I'm interested in routines because I've been investigating this theme lately that we're going to talk about in the lab graduates meeting tomorrow, which is peak performance.
Yeah.
You know, this theme, interesting. It's an interesting theme for circus artists, but also for dancers, of course. And so I'm interested in routines that people have. Yeah.
I think this thing of like, as creators, like the reading and the meditation is kind of like, is like starting the day with the two fundamental things, which creative reading is like, because sometimes we wake up and none of us feel like reading, but, we insist on it every day. And then you insist on opening yourself up to get new ideas. Then meditation is self-reflection. So it's like being, again, the discipline of starting the day like this already arranges the rest of the day to be creative. That's the way I see it. And when I was performing more than creating, my routine was a little bit different, by the way.
Also, like, I think that there is something interesting about this time that you decide that it's just your own, like this is, I feel that it's the time of the day that it's my own. I don't need to deal with anything that it's contextual work or whatever, where, things comes and you need to deal with it and adapt. Like this time, I don't need to adapt. I just follow what I feel, which is having this time for expanding my interest intellectually, in the soul, in the.
Great. So how long does this time for yourself take? And then how does your day proceed?
1 hour, basically. 1 hour for reading and meditation.
Me, I think a bit more, but also after I start doing like more random things. Because I wake up a bit earlier to have a bit more. So for me, 2 hours, but like the second hour is a little bit like,
It's like
going
Tom's
around
mess.
doing.
It's a sort of mess like Tom's.
Yeah.
Random things. I like it. An hour of random things. I'll put it in the schedule. That's interesting. I like that. No, it's good because it keeps you flowing also a little bit. And Tom, then after your hour, what do you do?
I think from there it depends on what we're engaged with. So, for example, usually we have either together or not together. For me, I think also with you the same. It depends what we work with, but somewhere before lunch there is studio time or time to actually to move. So for example, recently it's always been rehearsals, because we had our street performance and creation, and we're in another creation. So it's like after this until lunch, there is some kind of rehearsal. Then in other moments when we don't have something to rehearse, then it becomes a movement research this time before lunch. So I think that this is kind of, for me, this is like kind of the, like it goes reading, meditation, and then there's some kind of movement that is either.
Okay, and then movement is either creation or research or teaching sometimes.
Research, yes. Research, creation, teaching, and not often as we would like. Also, we have sometimes just practice, but this didn't happen in a while because we've been busy.
Because you've been busy. That's great. So, so can you tell me how all these aspects relate to each other? So what is the place of pedagogy and teaching in your, for each separately, what is the place of pedagogy and teaching for you? What is the place for research? And what is, I mean, in an ideal world where you would not answer all exterior triggers, but would be able to choose, like, for example, I will ask you at a certain point in this conversation what your aspirations for the company is. So let's say 10 years from now, the company is very well known. There are other people traveling and you can choose whatever you want to do with your days. So what takes a bigger place right now? It's a strange question. It's a question about a possible future, but I'm asking it now. So now, what would you like, or how do these three, let's say, pillars of your work relate to each other?
I think, funny enough, that if like I had all of the choice, I would probably choose some kind of a similar mix to what I have now. I mean, now the mix is responding also to external triggers, but I feel that the mix that I have both personally and professionally is very fulfilling. There is something very humbling and again, I can only witness from myself, but I feel healthy about this shift between being creator, practitioner, teacher, researcher. Because, as a practitioner, which means also a performer, because we also perform our creations, you deal a lot with yourself and with your skills. And what do they express? How do they look? How to improve them? Which is very interesting, but it can also be a little bit, simple. I mean, when I was younger, I felt also it was narcissistic. Nowadays, I don't feel it's narcissistic anymore, but like too much of a self-focus. Then you teach, you balance it because you give, so it's about, so you're becoming so busy about other people's progress, other people's fulfillment, other people's expression. Then when you create, it's almost like I feel that the creation is kind of a demand. It's actualizing, because you need to, you have a vision and you need to demand it in order for it to be a reality. And there's something really much more sharp about it and much more immediate, because again, as a teacher, as a practitioner, you gradually progress, and the creation is like, you have to pull it now again and again. So these different qualities are very healthy as a combination and on a personal level. And not to mention that nowadays, I think that there's something about the combination of making art and teaching art. It is very important in our world of information, because you basically have to teach people what are you doing and what are they seeing when they're seeing your work, or how to see your work, or how to experience your work. So the connections that I feel that I have in the multiplicity of things that we do are things that I would like to keep for even 10 years from now.
Great. Jose?
Pretty similar, actually. Also very happy with with this balance. It's true that on the teaching level, like I like personally more to be engaged in the dialogue and even being also teaching as a practitioner, like embodying kind of the teaching. So this is like a bit of a different place for both of us. Yeah. So yeah, and basically for me, creation is also dealing sometimes with the unknown, which it brings me balance in life, no? In between teaching, for example, that it's a place like, or it's a bit more of a known place, because people comes to you because they think they want something, that a knowledge that you have, so this is already like a different relationship. And in creation, I want something, I don't know exactly what it is until I find it, and then yeah, it's another flow. And I feel it keeps me also balance in my personal life, like acknowledging that there are things that yes, you can demand and you can push, but sometimes they don't appear just because maybe you are not really ready, or to see it, to hear it, to feel it.
Yeah, that's very important part of creation, this unknown.